The objective of the Awaken experience is to surface long suppressed or repressed emotions, energies, and thoughts, to question the beliefs that can lead us to suffering, and to give us the tools of letting go and surrender. The 4-day retreat is organized as mind, body, spirit, and integration. The day of the mind, our first day, begins with workshops around authentic relating, vulnerability, and questioning our beliefs. It's along the lines of spiritual teacher Byron Katie, who shares that suffering doesn't come from our thoughts, it comes from the fact that we believe our thoughts. And so we'll go into workshops that help us identify the thoughts that we are attached to, the limiting beliefs, and then surface those and work on having a contrary thought, which is a thought, instead of limiting, empowering. That night, we will be sitting with MDMA and psilocybin. The reason why we use MDMA in conjunction with psilocybin as a sacrament is that it tends to offer a more gentle experience of working with psychedelics. And so as an introduction to the work, MDMA tends to soften that first introductory experience and give people a greater sense of safety to work with the psychedelic. On the second day, the day of the body, we work with somatic release tools and psychodrama. So much of these tools are about noticing what's in the body and then triggering and releasing energies that we may be somewhat unfamiliar with. Anger, grief, shame, guilt, some of these lower energies. We tend to use the energy of anger most often as a portal to these other energies. David Hawkins shares when talking about anger that it has the energy of doing this. And so you may recount situations in your life where when you felt angry, you were extremely motivated to make a change, right? And there's this principle in psychology from John Gottman called the anger iceberg, that just like an iceberg where the vast majority of the ice is underneath the water, anger is just the tip, and then underneath we can find that anger is really masking where we feel guilt or shame or grief or fear. So we'll be working with these extremely valuable energies and surfacing them, and it tends to be a pretty energetic day. This is what we would call a light introduction to shadow work, which is working with the quote-unquote lower energies in service of feeling our feelings in totality, releasing our hold on them, aka letting go, which allows us to escalate up the ladder of consciousness towards peace, love, joy, the lovely things. That night, we're sitting with a higher dose of psilocybin as a sacrament. And it tends to be one of the most powerful nights in terms of releasing energies. And we'll talk more about that in the retreat container. But this particular day, every expression is welcome. So we tend to do more crying, more screaming, more laughing, more bliss than any other time. And that's because we're finally accessing so much more than before. The third day, Saturday, the day of the spirit, is where we begin with workshops that help us face the fear of death. The Yoga Sutra says that the fear of death is the source of all fear. It's the source of rush, for example, which can generate anxiety or stress because we believe that we have a limited time. And so it kind of follows that exercise in your preparation guide. What if you only had 1 year to live? What if you only had 1,000 years to live? How would you change the way that you live your life? And so we're going to confront that in detail. We're also going to work through meditations and positionality of how we feel about ourselves as a masculine or a feminine, and then culminating in a really beautiful day ceremony. So this is a day ceremony with the sacrament psilocybin again. And it's something that we're very excited to share with you. Rarely are day ceremonies held in this sort of tradition, but what it tends to do is unlike the night ceremony where people are not really able to see each other or interact, this day ceremony tends to be a little more celebratory in nature as we really dive into the energy and feeling of gratitude. So a lot of things get synthesized in this work. And then finally, in Day of the Spirit, we will feel and work through what it means to be in spirit, to be in full presence. And so much of that is defined by being a child again. If you notice children, they tend to always tell the truth, right? If you ask a child, do I look fat? They'll say, yes, you do. And that nature comes from their own internal connection with their truth, that they've yet to form the protective layers that we've been growing as an adult that from imagined fears. And so because of that purity, it's something that they're able to live life in love, in joy. You know, the child's joy is the most pure type of joy. And so much of our journey with spirit is about being back into that state. And then finally, the day of integration is where we start concatenating all the tools that we learned together, and then synthesizing them in workshops where we can identify our old to a new way of being, and then practice those tools where we have people, where we, in partnership with others, where we practice them in triggering situations. We'll have some celebrations, and then we'll send you on your way and move into the phase of integration afterwards.